Just when I thought I couldn't find my way out, yeah, I searched the God in me to find my way out. I know it can seem way out, but the Creator flows to and through me from way out. I'm talking way out, yeah, yeah, yeah. See, if you believe in the God in you, it's a better place. Creating the force and the power to live a better. Just know that love and joy and peace is one in all of the same space. That you were chosen just like God. That's right. I'll give myself. Only you can make the change. I'll give myself. Shine your head at you. I'll give myself. Shine so bright. From darkness to light. Hey, 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 hey. From darkness to light. Yeah. And you'll find your way out. Yeah, yeah. Oh, it won't seem way out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The power of God will flow through you from way out.
Welcome. This is Alchemizing Energy, and I'm your host, DJ Genesis. And once again, we have our Friday weekly edition with Awo Falokun. Welcome to the show, Baba. So lately this week, we have been really discussing relationships, and I kind of have gone into a series, kind of getting into relationships from a spiritual pattern of a spiritual basis. Yesterday I did a show on romantic love and what is romantic love and the origins of romantic love. And I did find that they are saying that romantic love is actually based in witchcraft. Have you heard about that?
Not that per se. As we get into it, my perception is that there are a lot of social protocol factors that go into relationships in traditional Yoruba culture. I'm not sure that all of them work in Western culture, but it's certainly something to consider, and it's really got some heavy survival implications. So we can go into all that if you like.
So yesterday when I was actually doing my show, what I found, what I was discussing was the origins of romance. And that I'm not sure if I'm sure you are aware that the actual romancing a person was invented in France. And it was a way for like poor people to be a poor man to be able to, because all the rich people used to have all the women. So for the poorer people to have women, they would have to have this thing they invented a thing called romance. Right. And this was invented in so-called France. And then I wanted to compare that to in African society. What is there romance, or is it? Listen, when you turn this age, you're going to get married to this person, and that's it. Then big shut up. You know what I'm saying? How does it work? You know what I'm
saying? Well, what you're talking about in France is called courtly love. There's a bunch of what's called courtly poetry that really defined kind of an intimate relationship. Prior to that time, that would be the probably the Middle Ages, 12 to 1500s. Marriages were arranged, absolutely, and they were pretty rigid, and a person's emotional feeling for their partner didn't really factor in. So here's the thing I want to say about relationship protocol in Africa. Let's start with this important distinction. In the diaspora, there are people who believe that an Awo has to be polygamous, and that polygamy means having as many girlfriends as you want as long as your wife doesn't find out. No, that's not the way it works.
As long as your wife doesn't find out.
In traditional Yoruba culture, there's some Orishas, I would say Obatala and Ogun in particular, have a taboo against polygamy. Some of the other Orishas, it's either expected or doesn't really come up one way or another.
Which ones are taboo? Who are taboo?
Obatala, polygamy is taboo for Obatala initiates and for Ogun.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. And as a son of Ogun, I can say I'm hopelessly and eternally monogamous. So I'm not the best person to consult about polygamy. But what I do know is this. In traditional Yoruba culture, there's high value placed on having children to keep the culture alive and in survival, really. And it sounds strange, and no generalizations are always true, but you'll find a very common belief among traditional Yoruba women that they have a social obligation to have at least 4 children. And it's a real strong norm, and it's talked about openly, and there are various structures in place to support that. All right. Now, the first thing that's in place to support that, and I really don't think this would work in America so much, but in traditional Yoruba culture, the women of Iami, which is the Women's Society, really support the what's the word? The bonding process, the courtship process, the movement towards marriage, and they have some pretty strict rules. So I'll go over some of those. But the first rule they have is if you're interested in a relationship, and believe me, there's a lot of room for interest. It's not all arranged or preordained, and it's rarely done through divination. People can choose who they want to be with, and then they go to divination to ask the question, how do I make the relationship work? But it's actually taboo to ask the question, is so-and-so my soulmate? Or does it, should I marry this person? Those are considered free will questions and not really relevant to the divination process. But in any case, let's say you're a young woman, you're interested in a young man, and you want to have a relationship. The first step, according to tradition, is to prove that you're fertile. So do you have any idea how you do
that? What, have sex?
No, not sex, children. Have children.
Right.
So in traditional Yoruba culture, a baby daddy is always a husband. There's no option. There's no choice. You make a baby, you're responsible for it. End of story, end of discussion. And any reluctance to step up and take that responsibility is dealt with very harshly by the grandmothers. Now, you don't have to have an intimate relationship. You don't even need to live with your partner or your baby mama, but you do have to support the children, and you do have to support the mother. Now, the reason that works to a certain extent is there's a bifurcation of the main industries in rural villages. The men work the farm, the women process the food. So, for example, people talk about Babalaos that Odu says they have to earn a living in Awo. There's no Odu that says that. That's total nonsense. Mm-hmm. There's no Odu that says that at all. In traditional Yoruba culture, it's expected that Awos work. I've worked all my life, and not as an Awo. So the point is that the men of IFA and Ode Ramo, all of them, most of them, I would say maybe 80% of them, work together on a collective farm. Farming in traditional Yoruba culture in Nigeria is pretty basic. You go 3 days a week to pull weeds. There's enough rain and water to sustain the growth of the crops. They tend to rotate crops. They move between corn, yams, and kind of back and forth between those two. But at the harvest time, all the food is brought to the elder Ifa priest's house, and then it's divvied up more or less equally among all the members of the Egbe. That means the husbands and the wives. So the structure of family is really connected to the idea. Culturally, the men own the farms collectively. So in order to be a part of the food distribution system, you need to have some kind of relationship with the man. All that, in terms of Western norms, is extremely sexist, frowned upon, and probably wouldn't work. But the question is, how is it done in traditional Yoruba culture?
So,
and
like, what that, like, the end, there's not so much about the independent woman. It ain't no, it's community based.
Community and what you need to do to survive. Now, I have to say that as Ifa diminishes in popularity, I guess, and Christianity and Islam are more predominant, these traditional values that I'm talking about are less and less evident. But so a man and a woman can choose to have a relationship. They can go about the process of having a baby. Once the mother becomes pregnant, that's a signal for a marriage ceremony, which is essentially the community comes together, divination is done on how to sustain the relationship, and then the community acknowledges and addresses the issue of what each person can do to support the relationship.
Wait, so they have sex before they're married?
Correct.
Mm.
And
Wow.
And that
So
becomes,
what if the person? But if they have sex with, is it like are they allowed once they have a baby? Because I'm trying to figure out, like, so a woman is she considered promiscuous if she has sex with more than one partner?
not at all.
No.
No.
Huh. Interesting.
And it doesn't have to be with the baby daddy. There's a very what I would call open relationship with the idea of sexuality. Also, this is going to be really controversial, but I try to be as accurate and honest as I can. There are gay men and women in traditional Yoruba culture. Some people claim that that's not true. It's absolutely true, and all the certainly the gay men that I know have children with wives.
What?
Yes.
So they'll be gay and then they'll also have kids.
Absolutely. And
wow.
And there's a cultural obligation to have children. Now, again, that's less and less so probably over the last 20 years. But when I first started going to Africa 40 years ago, it was clear that at least 2 male couples within the Egbe, and it was also clear that they had children and families. And so rather than what we understand as gay lifestyles, there would be what we could call polygamous lifestyles. But those are about primary intimate relationships. And those are different than procreative, build a family, work a farm together relationships. If you're a single woman and you want to have children and you want to be associated with the farming community, you can go to Ifa and say, I need a baby daddy. And the elder and Ifa will arrange that. That's the original meaning of a Potebi. It's a Potebi is a wife of an Awo who is in an arranged relationship based on the desire of the woman, not the man, of the woman to have children and be a part of a extended family. And so, there's certain really strict rules around that too. The first rule is that the first baby mama or the first wife gets to choose the other wives. The husband has no say in the matter.
What?
If someone wants to be the wife of an Awo, the second, third, or fourth wife, they have to first get the permission of the senior wife.
So all y'all out here thinking y'all doing polygamy, the wife is supposed to choose the. You know what I'm saying? Y'all think that y'all go out and go to the strip club and pick a wife or whatever. That ain't how it works.
That's exactly my point. The other thing is
in polygamy.
The senior wife is in charge of distributing the finances, and the senior wife is in charge of distributing the family chores.
You know, so she tell you what you got to do in the household. She tells the other woman what to do. Absolutely. She's like the head honcho. Okay,
and that's part of the decision. Sometimes a woman might see a man and be interested in being part of his polygamous entourage, let's say, but when the senior wife says your job will be cleaning toilets, that connection becomes a lot less attractive.
Right.
The further
your job is to,
listen, the lower you are in the pecking order, the worse the job. It's that simple. So a second wife is fairly well off. 12th wife, and not so good. But I've seen, for example, there's a group of senior IFA priests in IFA called the Awani. They are the diviners for the king, or they used to be. That's changed recently, and that's a different story. But at the time I was going to Africa.
No, that's changed. The Uni and the Unio Ife and all that.
Let's save that conversation for the end of today's thing if you want. That'll get us on a big time sidetrack, and for sure when I talk about that I'll go on a rant. But one of the Awani, there's 16 Ifa priests who each have a chieftaincy title by virtue of being in the Awani. Essentially, the Awani are the 16 oldest Ifa priests in Ila Ife, and when one passes away, everybody moves up and they add a new one. That's kind of how the structure used to work, let's say. So one of the Awani whose house I stayed at had 6 wives and 98 children.
Wow.
And they all lived in the same house. So it was a rectangular shaped house.
98 kids living in the same house?
Yep. And the kids had one whole wing.
They had an apartment building? They have elevators? Floors? I mean,
no, it was
kids. Oh my God.
It was a mud house. It was pretty basic. Oh
my God. So you gotta be a community based when you got 98.
Well, yeah, but listen, that's gonna sound funny, but it's true. They one wing was for the wives, one wing was for the children, one wing was for the husband and his brothers, and one wing was for the goats and the chickens. I mean, everybody.
Well, what about the wives' boyfriends? Do they have a wing too?
Not so much. It's sometimes it's hard to figure that stuff. The only thing I can tell you for sure is I asked Baba if he knew the name of all his children, and he wouldn't answer me. So that was
he didn't know. He doesn't know he had 98 of them.
He didn't know that. He didn't know that.
Wait, but daddy's baby, mommy's baby, daddy's maybe.
That's right. So it's all relative. But for him to do that meant that he was very wealthy, because he has an absolute moral obligation enforced by both Ogboni and Iami to support those 98 children.
Wow.
And he supported them well. He had a fish market. He had plenty of food. His brothers were fishermen in the Oshun River. And, he made it work. And,
so do all the kids have to, when they work, they bring their money back to the household? And
that's, I want to say yes, but I don't know for sure. The point is that most families that are polygamous, the children follow in the parents' trade, right? So families are okay, so if you're born in an Ogun family, there's a high expectation that you'll become a blacksmith. Doesn't matter who your Orisha is or who's guiding your consciousness or your Ori. You're going to if you were born into an Ogun family at your naming ceremony when you're 3 days old, you're going to receive initiation into the Orisha Ogun, because Ogun is the family Orisha, and that's more important in traditional Yoruba culture than your head Orisha by a lot. You understand? Now, you could be born in an Ogun family, and your naming ceremony may indicate that you are an Ifa priest in terms of your destiny and your potential. So what that means is, since the family is the school, you go live with the Ifa family.
So you have to actually leave your family and go and live.
Sort of. I mean,
and learn how to be.
Well, it's more like you live with. If you're born in an Ogun family and you're studying Ifa, you live with the Ifa family from 9 to 5. It's not much different than going to school, and then you go home to your biological family in the evening.
Wow. And this is how the culture goes. And this is actually see, so this is really breaking down the Orisha and how, like, these different households, like blacksmiths, the Ifa are the diviners, the Oya are the cemetery, and they're probably teaching their kids the marketplace, blacksmithing, divination.
Yes, and the way the school,
whatever it is, Osain, herbs, in each.
Yep, exactly right. And for Oshun, it's cloth making, tie dye. MIS tend to be midwives and so on.
So say if you're a woman and you were in an Ogun house, and you were Oshun head, would you go 9 to 5 to an Oshun house to learn cloth making, or would you become a black?
Yeah, no, you could make that choice. I mean, there's free will involved in all of this. If you're a woman, the training is for children, meaning from old enough to talk to puberty. Past puberty, you start to do the work that you've trained to do. So if you're born in an Ogun family and you're an Oshun who is trained with the Oshun Egbe in the community, you can still live at home with your Ogun family and participate in the Oshun cloth making business. Yeah, it's kind of like that. And
do you bring your money back to the Oshun house or to the Ogun house?
Oh, I have to say, I don't absolutely know the answer to that. Sorry, but
I was thinking about, like, because the whole thing is about, like, community and commerce and all.
Yeah, well, listen. Here's the truth. The reason that's a little confusing to me, when I used to joke when I first went to OD Ramo, which was in the late 1980s. I used to joke that the community had 20 naira and they took turns holding it. There wasn't a whole lot of cash money floating around. It was a barter economy completely. And so the structure of the family ensures that people are connected to a farm. Each Egbe has its own farming responsibilities. In other words, the Ifa people have a farm, the Ogun people have a farm, and like that. And then they also, each of the families,
and they trade amongst each other based on what they have.
And certain families, instead of farms, like they'll raise goats or chickens, and they'll use that as barter for the corn and the yam. It was a pretty integrated and effective system, as far as I could tell, and it was impressive, and it was not really competitive. But the important thing in that structure is this, and this is taboo in the diaspora, but it's mandatory in Africa. Parents initiate their children. End of story, end of discussion. And so guess what happens when you initiate your children? You know what happens when you do that?
What?
You don't charge them money. So that initiation was not connected to any kind of money-making scam, and the notion that you had to earn a living as a priest didn't happen. You understand?
Right. Yep.
And the other thing is, there's the idea that Ifa priests can't do Orisha initiations. Ifa priests are the only people that are sanctioned to do every Orisha initiation we use in our faith. And what happens is the head Orisha priest in the community is called the Opoina. When someone wants to do initiation of their children, or and more recently of outsiders, they'll tell the Opoina. The Opoina will tell the Arabah, and I've seen that process, and that confused me a little bit at first. The Opoina would come and say, so-and-so needs to receive Ogun. Do you want to do the initiation? And the Arabah, my elder, my Baba, would always say no. I thought, what the hell is going on here? And I finally realized is they were telling him, so there's at least one person in the community who knows who's who and what's what and who's receiving what, and kind of keeps things coordinated. I mean, one of the reasons for that is if you were born in Igbadan and you cross the highway and ask to be initiated in Ode Ramo, the elders there will say, no, go home. You don't belong
Right.
here. You know what I'm saying? So it's a really, really community-based initiation process that is not money-based. There is expense, and so there's things done to raise the money. One of the things I did when I went to Ode Ramo, my initiation to the IFA cost $125. And
Wow.
so one of the things I did is I paid for the materials for various children of the Arabah to get initiated every time I went. And so that, was, I felt it was the least I could do. When I went to Oshobo, I took an Oshun student of mine to Oshobo to be initiated. They charged her, actually me, because I brought it, they charged me $75. And after the ceremony, about half the women got really upset because they felt that I had been overcharged.
Wow.
Right. So what happened is in Oshobo, an American went over there and said, oh my God, they're charging $75. I can get $10,000 for an Oshun initiation. Let me start advertising that. And and then I'll show folks how to give the initiate 5 orishas instead of 1, and we'll all make a fortune. All right. So
Wow.
what do you imagine happened?
Initiations went up. They started becoming about money.
No. What happened is they did that once, and the Oba of Oshobo, who was a Muslim, shut down the Oshun shrine to Orisha people and turned it over to his Muslim brothers who did tourist attraction initiations. And one of the young Oshun priests who tried to get into the shrine for religious purposes was shot and killed by the security at the Oshun shrine. And it's only in the last couple of years that it's been reopened for Orisha people to be involved in it. So you really have to be careful of your good ideas that have a better way of doing things that have been done for thousands of years culturally. You know,
Wait a minute. So an American person went over there and noticed that they were charging little to nothing. So they said, okay, they began to start bringing more people and making money with the shrine. So then somebody noticed
that was their plan. I'm saying it didn't work. They had one initiation. It was actually filmed in a documentary. And
I think I saw it. Was it?
Let's not go into details. But the point is, they did it once, and you have to understand they charged $10,000. At the time, the average annual income for a rural Yoruba person living in a farming community was $200. $10,000 is like hundreds of thousands of dollars in American money, and that caused some extreme conflict within the community to the point where people were killed, people were excluded from access to the shrine. And at the time of that exclusion, the big miracle of Oshun Shrine is every summer solstice, I think, Oshun would rise up out of the river and appear so you could see her. Oshun would come out of the river in a spirit form, and it was truly miraculous. People came from all over the world to witness the appearance of Oshun. As soon as they started charging $10,000 for Oshun initiations, Oshun never came back.
Wow. Wow.
So be careful what you ask for is my point, which is why it's important to understand, realize, and perpetuate the idea that IFA divination and IFA ritual is about supporting good character, not getting rich. You know, getting rich can support good character at times. And if we follow our passion, we certainly have a good chance of being successful, but it's not the point.
It's interesting that you said that it was a Muslim Ifa priest that took over the grove.
No, I didn't say Ifa priest. I said, hear me clearly.
Okay.
The Oba of Oshobo,
Okay.
Muslim,
Okay.
which is a common problem in Nigeria, that Obas become installed by Ifa ritual and then they change religions for reasons we can go into or not. But the Oba of Oshobo was a Muslim, and he hired his brothers to take over the shrine and to sell initiations to tourists. All right. And he excluded the traditional elders from the Oshobo shrine. And the thing to make it even more painful is the Iyalode, the elder mother of the Oshun shrine in Oshobo. You know who she was?
Who?
She was the Oba's mother. So he really took that whole thing to the bus stop and created some serious disruption. And that's a judgment, and I'm preaching.
Well,
but I'm trying to talk about what happens when you disrupt the natural order of things. You know, I mean, who did what? Not so important. But the fact that things changed without being able to think through the implications of those changes is what's it's tragic. Listen, I have a similar story that inadvertently I feel like I contributed to a problem in Ode Ramo. You know, when I first went to Ode Ramo, it was not on the map. The main highway didn't have a sign saying turn here to go to Ode Ramo. It was it was a hidden community, and the reason it was hidden is Ode Ramo in Yoruba means Ramo's forest. But if you put the word break in another place, it means eat your children. So when mothers in traditional Yoruba culture would scold their children, they'd say, don't do that or I'm going to send you to Ode Ramo. So when I first went, it took me half a day to find a cab driver who would take me there. And the guy that did was scared to death. You know, it was embarrassing. Right? So, but here's the point. So I went there and I wrote a bunch of books about Ode Ramo, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Ode Ramo became a tourist attraction.
Wow.
And you understand? They had a minister of tourism they installed. They were placed on the government maps. Ode Ramo was placed on all that. And then they had a street sign indicating where to turn. I mean, it's just like it changed everything. And I'm thinking, okay, this is wonderful. But somebody in the government who was not traditional decided that Ode Ramo was getting too much attention. So what did they do? Can you guess what they did?
They sent somebody there to run the town. What?
Oh, they made Ode Ramo the location of the army armory. So it's a place where if you go to Ode Ramo now, there's hundreds of tanks and artillery guns and ammunition warehouses. There's entertainment facilities for the soldiers, if you catch my drift. I mean, it just was like, oh no, this is horrible. And yeah, exactly. So
So when a place, so you have, so what it sounds like to me is in Nigeria there's a battle between tradition and other like religion, and when and it seems like when the traditional religion is not respected.
It's absolutely true. And what happens is that I can name them, but Nigeria always has a Christian crusade with big name televangelists coming into the country and setting up tents and converting people. The televangelists, you'd know them if I mentioned their names, but the point is they meet twice a year to plan their schedule so that there's always somebody working the televangelist tent. I call them circus. That's not fair. The tent show, whatever. Stop it. So, but the point is, do you know where they meet? The
Ocean, at the Ocean Grove.
No, they meet in the United States. They're all American.
Oh, so they're coming from America to go over to Nigeria.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't make that clear. And all but one of them are white, and they meet to plan their schedules at in a city called Langley, Virginia. You know what's in Langley, Virginia?
The military.
The CIA. They meet at the CIA headquarters.
What?
Yes, and they've started
the televangelists meet at the CIA headquarters to go to Nigeria for a conference.
Correct. And what they did collectively, throughout Nigeria and through most of Africa, you know, when I first started going, people's sexual preference was irrelevant. I mean, nobody cared. You know, I talked to the elders in IFA about whether gay people would become initiated, because in America, that was a big conversation. People were convinced that a gay person couldn't become initiated.
Right. Yeah, right.
And, you know, I asked the elders in Ife if that was true, and they laughed. You know, they couldn't believe that anybody cared, right? And since then, the Christian church in Africa has convinced every country but one to make homosexuality a capital offense. So gay people are being executed across the continent based on Christian crusades that are organized by the CIA.
Wow. But you know what else is the CIA was the CIA had a big old thing going against Pan-Africanism.
You think? Gee, don't get me now. You're going to get me really on that.
So it's interesting that they're against Pan-Africanism, but yet they're sending churches over there.
Yeah, but you understand that I spent decades working for the legal defense team for the Black Panther Party in America, and you could say that there was some political manipulation, corruption, deception, and efforts at destruction. You can say that without any fear of contradiction. So, Africa here, but you know, it's that same coalition that was the basis for Christian nationalism that created the MAGA movement, who thinks Donald Trump is the second coming. They literally think that. And so, you know, this is a ubiquitous and I would argue hostile influence on the American political scene.
Yeah, and then there's like this whole movement now that Pan-Africanism is dead, and like there's this whole like online like thing, and also there's the diaspora wars. You know, I'm not sure if you're aware of this whole war supposedly going on by Black African Americans and Africans and all this other stuff that's happening.
I have to say that's been going on for as long as I've been a part of the tradition. I've tried to stay out of that because I have no cultural authority in that conflict, but it's painful to watch. It's extremely painful. And the thing that made it hard for me is I've been around African Awos and African American Awos who, for the most part, don't speak Yoruba. So the Yorubas were talking horribly about the Americans, and I understood them, and it was like, oh God, I don't want to hear this. So that's been problematic for me.
So there is this. So there's like this whole, even in the tradition, as when people go over there, there's like this kind of a thing going on.
Let me be fair. There are really, really good Awos in Africa. There's a lot of them. They know more than we even know we don't know. The level of their understanding and depth of their wisdom is almost incomprehensible for Americans. And I want to say this about them, and I know a lot of them, and I've been blessed to learn from them and study with them, and none of them, hear me, none, that's zero, none of them are on Facebook. So we're not getting a clear indication of what IFA really is in Africa at all. You understand? And my initiation was a huge controversy in Africa, not because I'm of European descent, but because I wasn't from Ode Remo. Remember, I said earlier that your family initiate in the village where you were born,
right?
So I was not born in Africa, and I broke the precedent. And after I left, Awos came from all over Nigeria to debate whether that should have happened or not. They ultimately decided yes. The Arabab Ile Ife, who is the senior Ifa priest in Nigeria, at least used to be, he came to the United States. It was the first time he came to the United States in 1992 to go to the conference of Orisha at San Francisco State that was organized by Baba Bimbla. And when he came, they asked him what he wanted to do, and he said he wanted to come and meet me, which had everybody really upset. So he came and met me, and I had my whole family there to greet him. And he spent a whole day testing me and my skills as an Awo. And at the end of the day, he gave me permission to work as an Awo and do initiations in the diaspora. And so lots of people tell me that I can't or not, whatever. Listen, I've heard that.
People trying to tell you that you can't do something?
That's the only conversation I have with Lukumi elders. So the
why?
Point is, I don't know. But if he's the senior priest. He gave me permission. If you're not,
to initiate people Orisha, give people their Orishas. Is that what the Lukumi priests are arguing about?
No, I don't even want to go into it. But the point is, I've had very little support for having sanctioned to do traditional Ifa initiation, traditional Orisha initiation, even though most people in the diaspora who certainly do Ifa initiations do so based on the study material I provided. So, it gets a little tiresome. I went through it just last week. People said I had no right to initiate somebody, and I said, I'm your elder. Your opinion is of no interest to me. And that got people upset, but it's true. That's the way the tradition works. Elders do not have to answer to newbies.
So what people are coming at you? Are they coming at you online?
Sorry, that's all right. That's
getting
right.
into the tea. Like who's saying that? That's crazy. Like wow.
It would.
I'm OEI, so I'm like, who said it?
And no, we're not going to go there.
But so there's people that are coming up at you about you shouldn't be doing initiation. Why is it anybody's business what you're doing?
I don't know, but there was. I was married at one time to a famous Oshun priestess who's a well-known author, and people used to come. I would say, at least every other month, people would knock on the front door and tell me that IFA had told them that they were her husband, and they were there to help me move.
What? Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. That happened a lot. Oh, we're changing stuff. We got off topic here.
What?
So,
look, marriage in Yoruba culture, people are crazy. That's what it sounds like.
Well, let's just say that it
sounds like people get spookism. They get a little bit. American gets real spooky and weird. Okay.
I think people were surprised at my lack of acceptance of those divinations, but what can I tell you?
Well, Ifa told me that you should be moving out. I should be okay. Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. one poor guy. Change the subject. I can tell you some stories that are really embarrassing. But the serious issue here is that there's some serious dysfunction within our communities, and part of that dysfunction is based on any serious effort to reconcile, resolve, and heal the issues created by slavery. And during the current administration, those issues have gotten worse. I mean, when I was working closely with the Panthers, I felt, we're taking a bite into racism. We're making progress here. We're eventually going to all get along. This is wonderful. And I have to say, under the current mega influence, the situation is worse than it was back in the day. For me, I can't believe that that's where we're at.
Let me tell you, have you heard about the Chud the Builder? How he shot somebody or trying to shoot? He was out in Tennessee running around calling people ninjas, and saying that they were chimping out, and and man, it's just a whole bunch of stuff like that. But here's the thing, I think it's crazy that Trump was able to, within a 4-year period, or less than 4 year, 2 years, not even a whole year, reverse all the work that was done over to 10.
It's amazing what he's done, and it's really, really painful, evil, and ugly. There's an organization whose name I forget, who's dedicated to lobbying Congress to make non-Christian religions illegal in America.
No.
The chief lobbyist for that group, and their attorney is Clarence Thomas's wife. So the influence of that group is, Hobby Lobby.
Yeah.
The owner of Hobby Lobby has filed suit with the Supreme Court based on the idea that not being able to own slaves is a violation of his religious freedom.
What?
The owner of Hobby Lobby has filed suit.
Boycott Hobby Lobby, guys. What? So did he own slaves? Has he been owning slaves this whole time? And we didn't know it?
Well, I'm not going to say that, but he certainly feels that he should have the right to do that.
So for everybody, they've been waiting on this moment to come out and really show how they feel. Some of these people, and they're like, okay, finally, I don't have, I could, let's turn this whole thing back to how it was. We need to go right back to. It seems like are we going backwards in time? Like a baby.
Our Secretary of War wants to repeal the 14th Amendment, which gives free slave citizenship. I mean, that's insane. And he's not particularly shy about advocating it. He belongs to a church that advocates it. That's why he's eliminated as many African Americans from positions of authority in the military as he can. And he also believes that women shouldn't have the right to vote. So that's where we're at. These are people in official position who are creating policy, and we need to be conscious. We need to fight it with everything in us, and we need to find a better way.
But don't you think so? So why do you think I think it's interesting that they shut down one of the cheapest airlines. They seem to be raising prices to make it harder to leave the country. It's almost like, because you would think they always want us to go back to Africa, but they're doing everything to stop us from going to Africa.
Yeah, but they don't
they want us to go to Africa? I thought they want us to go back to Africa.
No, they want poor working class people to continue to support the government with their taxes so that wealthy people don't have to pay any. That's the plan. You know, wealthy billionaires in America pay no taxes based on Trump's tax policy.
Mm.
And the majority of taxes are coming from the poor, while at the same time, benefits for the poor are being systematically removed. And it's ugly, it's shameful, it's inappropriate, and it makes me.
I think the whole thing is to basically crush the lower class enough to the point where they have to become slaves again and let the government so-called take care of you and you just work. They want to put is that communism? What is that? What is that? Is it socialism? What is China? Is China socialist or communist? What is that? Where the government like rules everything and you have
that's called fascism. So I would call China, Russia, and the United States fascist.
Wow. Mm. The whole objective is for those three to run the whole world.
Well, no, there's actually they behind the scenes. It's actually one group. You know, the
Bilderbergs, the trilateral mission.
I'm going to say this, and then we're going to maybe call it a day because we're getting into dangerous territory here. But if you look back at the finances of the United States,
mm-hmm.
there were three families that financed slavery in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
You know what those three families, who they were?
Yeah, the Rockefellers, the Epsteins, and the.
Yeah, you do know. It was the Epsteins, exactly. And so is it a coincidence that Epstein was involved in global blackmail? No, that was part of a deeper program. And if you think Epstein was running that, I got a bridge I want to sell you in New York. He was just a gopher and a lackey. So we need to really get to the bottom of it. Rothschild, Oppenheimer, and Epstein were the main financiers of slavery in the United States. And I think they have legal liability for the damage they've done. And that's not even being considered, you know. Mm. So we've still got lots and lots and lots and lots of work to do.
How much longer do you think Trump is going to live?
Oh, don't ask me that. That's a crime.
I'm sorry. Never mind. Okay. I'm sorry.
Predicting the death of a political leader is not.
No. I was saying, like, you know, because I know he's sick. I know he has like.
What happened to? What was that red-haired comedian who predicted his death and she lost her job? What was her name?
I don't know. Kathy Griffin. Right?
There you go. So
yeah. I'm like if he's because he's got a lot of ailments and they want a second term. I'm like, you think he's gonna make it through this term, or do you think he's gonna really get a second term? Is there a chance? Because I know that they have in China ways that they can prolong life.
Yeah, let's be realistic about it. It doesn't matter because whoever replaces him is going to be just as bad. So let's talk about something more positive in the remaining few minutes.
Right.
Awo Falokun StudyCenter.com. That's the address for my new school. The school so far has one track on how to do divination. That's a series of 9 lectures. They're free. There's another series on Iwa Pele. There's a charge for that. It's not much. I can't remember what it is. But we also have a 25 class lecture series on how to do IFA initiations, Orisha initiations, Iyami initiations, and Egu initiations. The cost for that series is $675, and that class includes a 500-page reference book that includes all the prayers in Yoruba needed to do those initiations, plus a description of the process of doing the initiation. So if you're interested in that, go to that address on the screen. Also, can you put up can you put up Egbe Iwa Pele Ifa Orisha Community That's the title of my Facebook group. We do free classes every Sunday. We've just started a 8-week course on EME. That's free. It's every Sunday at noon Central Time. And we've got all the elder mothers in the family doing those lectures. I won't be lecturing on that subject. That's a little presumptuous. So the elder mothers have got that handled. I'm grateful to them for sharing their time and their wisdom. There you go. Yes, good. Thank you. So I'll give you one last question, and we'll call it a day. How's that?
So in Africa, okay, in a Yoruba tradition, in Ifa tradition, is there a such thing? Because I know that right now they might say it's New Age. There's a thing called twin flame, soulmates. All these different things. A partner. What's it called? So that you have these things called soul contracts, where you might have been married to a person in a past life, and then you make a contract to come back with each other. Are those things common in Yoruba culture, or those primarily like pagan cult, like New Age type of aspects of understanding?
I've seen no evidence of that at all, so I don't know.
So soulmates. There's no such. So basically, in okay, guys. So in Yoruba tradition, there's no such thing as like a twin flame or a. Are you aware what those things are?
What's the last thing? Twin what?
Twin flame. A twin flame. It's usually like, see, so the soulmate like apparently is someone from a past life. Hold on, let me get the definition so you can, because we might have something like that, but it's probably definition.
Yeah, listen, the simple answer is this. Every idea like that we believe in is talked about in Odu Ifa. Now, we've got a little bit of a problem with that in that every Odu in the African version of Odu Ifa has between 1 and 200 verses. The verses we have, we're lucky to have 3 or 4, and some of the verses were totally made up in the diaspora and got nothing to do with traditional Ifa at all. So what are we looking at? A soulmate is a person with whom you share a deep, harmonious, supportive bond, often feeling like a perfect fit, whereas a twin flame is considered one soul. No. Sorry, no.
Mirror-like connection focused on spiritual growth, disruption, and healing. So it's soulmates bring comfort, while twin flames often trigger deep insecurities and growth. And so the objective of it is if you met your twin flame, that person is brought into your life to teach you some type of a karmic lesson that you came on this earth to learn.
Okay. Everybody does that. Every relation you have has that component to it. So that's not telling me anything. If you meet somebody and you're attracted to them, or you feel an affinity, or you enjoy being with them, then you go to Ifa and ask the question, how do I make this relationship work?
So it's not okay. I think that's interesting. So because a lot of people that are in Ifa in America, like they've heard, there's, I'm not sure where this comes from, this soulmate, twin flame, blah blah. Yes. I'm not sure what their concepts, those concepts come from.
I'm clear. It comes from New Age astrologers who make a fortune selling that line of foolishness. If you look at, the Gaia Network.
Yes.
It's on spirituality, right? The Gaia Network, those ideas are popular on the Gaia Network. But if you notice, there's not one single program on the Gaia Network that features any reference at all to African spirituality. Not a one.
There isn't.
And I know all those people. All those people in there, I know them. I was active when the New Age movement started. I know all the famous pagan witches, talking heads, spiritual gurus. And I'll tell you, the minute you mention African spirituality, they have a fit.
What?
They have a total fit. They don't want to hear it. They won't allow it. They would never allow me to speak. I got excluded from virtually everything. And the notion that everything that they believe has its origins in Africa just makes people go crazy. And here's the reason I know that. If you're dealing with spiritual issues and you're in a multicultural environment, white folks for the most part know how to behave. But when you get in a group where it's just white folks talking about spirituality, that's some of the most racist BS I've ever heard in my life. A lot of it based on works by Madame Blavatsky. Have you ever heard her?
Yeah.
Madame Blavatsky, what's her claim to fame? Do you know?
Madame Blavatsky, she wasn't she the godmother of eugenics, or was that somebody else? Oh, that's Ayn Rand.
That's one of her claims to fame. But Madame Blavatsky was the spiritual foundation for the creation of the Nazi Party in Germany in 1935. Wow. I'm not interested in anything she has to say at all, ever. If you actually read her stuff, which I'm embarrassed to say I have, she has the most anal and offensive, defensive racism I've ever seen.
And she started that whole part. Wow. And that's what a lot of this new age stuff is really based on. Wow. It's based on like racist kind of
Well, it's influenced by Blavatsky, who is clearly racist if you read her books. The other person who had the same struggle was Crowley and
and people, you'll see some black people following that, and they don't even know that these guys were even racist. So a lot of these groups is new because you really notice that a lot of those new age things, you don't see a lot of black people involved with them. It's almost like it's a secret group of people that are doing spiritual stuff, but you don't see African spirituality in that.
People can do what they want. That's not my point. I'm not trying to be critical. What I am doing is saying that if we're going to come together as a family globally and stop all the competition and foolishness and hatred, the first thing we need to do is acknowledge that everybody alive today on planet Earth has DNA connecting them to a single East African woman. That makes us all African, no matter how we look and who wants to describe us as that. And if we can't come to terms with that, we are suffering a deep illness of gynophobia, meaning fear of the mother. And there's no way you can develop spiritually and hold on to gynophobia. It's just not possible.
And what about the Kabbalah? Do you believe that the Kabbalah is close to, in any way, IFA?
No, it is IFA. They're the same thing. The Kabbalah originated among the Essenes in the Holy Land when this is a long story. We'll talk about that one class. Essentially, the Kabbalah is this. Akhenaten, who was from Atlantis, came to Egypt about 5,000 years ago and tried to reclaim the original Egyptian religion, which was opposed. So he took the ancient Egyptian religion to Israel and changed his name to Moses. And so the 16 principles of Odu Ifa are coded into the Kabbalah. And you think, well, wait a minute, there's 10 stations, there's 20 positions. No, the top 3 positions of the Kabbalah are one. It's the Hebrew Trinity. So that means it's 8 principles, 8 and 8, the descent of Ashe to earth. First 8, the last 8 is the ascent of Ashe from earth to heaven. That's the exact same formula as used in Odu Ifa. And if you look at the in-depth explanation of those principles as expressed in the Emerald Tablets, the metaphysical principles of the 16 Odu absolutely match concept by concept to the Emerald Tablets used by the Prophet Thoth in Egypt a long time ago. So there's a direct correlation. We can understand Egypt better if we understand Ifa, and we can understand Ifa better if we understand Egypt. But the point is that Odu Ifa is a system of analysis through which the ancients understood physical reality. And without understanding Ifa, you don't really have a good understanding of the world we live in. And that's a deliberate effort to suppress ancient wisdom. That's why Africa isn't included in the dialogue on Gaia or the New Age movement. They want to keep that information a secret. And if you really understand the Kabbalah, if you really understand Odu Ifa, if you really understand the Emerald Tablets, then you can access free energy, anti-gravitational travel, use of resonance as a healing tool, and ultimately you can understand alchemy. You know, the word for science in Yoruba is Ijinla, which translates literally as how to make gold. So the process of turning lead into gold is not an analogy. It's not a spiritual symbol. It's a literal process. And the pyramids are connected to a series of it's just, what I'm about to say is totally unbelievable, so you have my permission to think I'm crazy. But the pyramids are connected to a series of 2 million stone circles directly underneath them that go all the way to the tip of South Africa. And so the circles have stone impressions of the patterns generated by resonance. So the pyramid was infusing these circles with energy that activated the resonance from the earth represented by those symbols. And where they end up in South Africa is the largest deposit of gold on earth. The people that built the pyramids built them to generate gold from crystal in South Africa, and they use that as the basis for trade with off-planet entities.
And see, and here's the thing: it sounds like to me that I would love, like, next time we come back, we talk about the similarity of Kabbalah, because is Kabbalah the other side of Judaism, or sort of the Torah? Is it like the hidden aspect of the Torah? And I also heard that the tarot is actually the Kabbalic aspect of divination. The tarot is
you're on the right track with that. The tarot was brought to Europe in 1100 by the Knights Templar, and the thing is not understood so much about the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar was led in its original manifestation by a man named Hugo Païens, which means Hugo the Pagan. Hugo Païens brought occult science to Europe and also Western science. He is the man responsible for the Renaissance, and he was able to gather up a whole lot of scrolls on science from under the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. And the thing that people conveniently ignore is that he was a Moor, which means he was an African from Morocco living in Spain. And he spoke about a dozen languages. And he went in there and lived for 9 years under the Temple Mount, where he discovered a whole bunch of stuff and brought it to Europe. And that started, I've written 3 books on that subject, so I can talk about it endlessly. But the history we were taught is not the history that actually happened. If you want to go into that a little bit, we can.
Yeah, we definitely. Yes, definitely.
You want to hear something strange about that? I'm going to say this. I think most of the views of Mel Gibson are offensive and slightly crazy. But Mel Gibson just finished making a movie based on the Ethiopian Bible, which clearly states Jesus was black. Mel Gibson would be the last person I expected to popularized that idea, but he's right in the thick of it. So that's going to be interesting to see how that.
He's about to come out with a book with a black Jesus, a movie with a black Jesus.
Correct.
After he, wasn't he the Passion of the Christ?
Yes.
And wasn't that white Jesus? So how?
Yeah, and he's come on top.
The white Jesus and the black Jesus. They gonna have
he does, and he's admitted that his earlier views were mistaken. His father is actually a famous theologian, believe it or not, and also a Holocaust denier. So he's a little out the box. But those are all interesting subjects. They're not really. Yeah, they're sort of directly related to IFA in the sense that a lot of distortions of our faith are based on that Catholic history that I think is more mind controlled than theological liberation.
I want to. Next week, I also want to get into the story of Yewasun, because they try to say that was Jesus, and that Yewasun was Jesus coming into the Yoruba land. Have you heard of that, Yewasun?
I've heard similar things.
I'm not sure how you said the name, Yewasun, or something like that, but I heard the story that it was like, that at some point, Jesus was supposed to become a Babalawo and become initiated. He chose not to do it.
Stop it.
He got told
no, just stop it.
He didn't do it. And something, and since he didn't do it, then he became the sacrifice. He got sacrificed.
Before I came a Awo, I was a student of historical biblical research.
Mm-hmm.
The likelihood that the biblical Jesus ever existed is pretty close to zero. So the fact that he might have become a Babalawo, give me a break. It's like saying Howdy Doody became a Babalawo. I'm sorry. I'm sure I'm offending everybody. But to be fair,
Howdy became a Babalawo.
To be fair, the biblical story of Jesus was loosely based on the story of the last Pharaoh of Syria. And there's a reason that's important, because when Alexander invaded Egypt, he shut down the Egyptian religion and made himself the Pharaoh of Egypt. And so the priest in Egypt at the time of Alexander's invasion went to a range of mountains called Nag Hammadi and wrote all the ancient Egyptian mysteries under the using Greek metaphysical language, in which Christos, the Greek for Christ, was a reference to somebody who had been initiated into what we would call Elah. So there is a connection metaphysically there, but not necessarily historically. We can go into that if you want, but know this, you're showing great courage by having me on just talking about simple stuff. If we do a deep dive into history, prepared for some annoyed listeners.
Hey, listen, I get annoyed listeners all the time. I've been called all kind of names.
All right.
So I'm used to it by now. I've been called fat and all type of thing. So especially when I was talking about Trump, I'm delusional. I'm everything. So I had people call me a nigger. You know what I'm saying? People type in NIGGE like. So hey, I'm not afraid of the controversy. Let's talk about what the story is. I don't care.
There's the biblical story of Jesus is the Egyptian story of Osiris. Hello. Right. It's not similar. It's not close. It's the exact same story. And that story appears in 17 different cultures in the exact same format. So right. How can that be one person? The answer is it can't. So when the Romans...
Well, even in the Bible, I think he was in there twice. I think it was different Jesuses even in the Bible. itself, right? There was like several iterations of Jesus, right?
Yeah. Okay. So let's end with this. The word gospel means book about Jesus written within 100 years of Jesus's death. If you find a manuscript about Jesus written from the Common Era to 100 AD, it's technically called a gospel among theologians. There are 4 gospels in the English Bible. Christian theologians, most of whom I know, who dealt with the Bible and translating the Bible, have identified 86 Gospels. So what happened to those other 82 Gospels? That's the question.
Aren't they in the Ethiopian Bible?
Yeah, actually, most of them are. Not all of them, but most of them.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, because you ever heard of Dr. Billy Carson? Or he had a whole thing like getting because he called it the Sinai Bible or whatever like that or whatever. And
yeah, Billy's on the right track. He's got some good stuff on the Emerald Tablets.
They tried to destroy his whole career, child. They tried to ruin his whole life.
Well, and why is that? He's the one black-faced on Gaia.
Right. He ain't there no more. I think they tried to take him up off of there. It's like, oh no,
we gotta get. Or he was the one African American on Gaia, and he got to be too much. So I don't know. He yeah.
Right. You're not supposed to judge, so you gotta keep your words.
Listen,
pick your words wisely.
I fell down a rabbit hole. I'm gonna run. Stay safe.
All right, see you later. All right, guys. Peace out. I fell down a rabbit hole.
Just when I thought I couldn't find my way out, yeah, I searched the God in me to find my way out. I know it can seem way out, but the Creator flows to and through me from way out. I'm talking way out, yeah, yeah, yeah. See, if you believe in the God in you,